Piers Morgan recently did a panel where he had on two members, one from the Israeli side and one from the Palestinian side, to host a contentious debate over Israel's overall actions, them going into Rafah, and what will move this forward. And I thought it would be interesting to cover as there were a multitude of good points made. So we will look through some of these clips, and as always, I will jump in to provide the needed context.
2005, Israel left the Gaza Strip unilaterally in order to give the Palestinians that chance of what they said they wanted. They wanted autonomy, they wanted self-determination, they wanted a state. And let's say that it wasn't a state, it was a statelet. And look what happened. This man who just spoke, his party Fatah were brutally removed in 2006 from the Gaza Strip by Hamas, who took over and since haven't had an election. That's been 17 years. Now, the people who live under the Hamas umbrella, they're doing great. And the people who don't live a miserable life.
The talking point of Israel withdrawing from Gaza in 2005 is such a misrepresentation of the facts. Pretty much all international human rights organizations agree that them pulling the troops back did not end the occupation. If you want to really play the semantics, you could call it a siege instead. But either way you look at it, they remained in control. The indisputable fact is that Israel still controlled Gaza's airspace, still controlled its waters, still controlled crossings in and out of the Gaza Strip, controlled commercial goods on import and export, and the population registry. Most of these being functions that a normal government would control. Thus, Israel was still the acting force of authority in the region, and they carried out that control through abuses on Palestinian people and military forces as a means of annexation. There were plans that were leaked months before October 7th of Israel officially signing resolutions to annex the West Bank and the Gaza Strip and fully take military control of the two. There were multiple attacks in 2018 on protesters and those doing demonstrations and the people who posed no threat to Israel at the time. If you look through just the sheer amount of deaths by year of 2005, 2006, 2007, directly after they ended the occupation, look at the children deaths as well. You can see that Israel in no way took its foot off the neck of Gaza and continued its domination of the Palestinian people. It only realized that it didn't need a puppet army on the ground to do so. And Netanyahu, by the way, is the one that bolstered and funded Hamas so they would rise to power because he was at arms with the PLO, and the PLO were persistent on actually following the Geneva Convention and allowing human rights on both sides. So clearly Israel would look like the bad guy against them. Netanyahu is literally quoted as saying that you have to support bolstering Hamas and transferring them money if you're against the recognition of a Palestinian state. As far back as 2012, Netanyahu is also quoted as saying he wants to strengthen Hamas as it would hinder the progress of a Palestinian state, and he literally funneled money to them through Qatar, which was a close Israeli ally until 2009. So no, Israel never withdrew from Gaza. They continued killing its civilians, women and children mostly, and elderly, and hampering their ability to create a state by controlling their airspace, their imports and exports, and then propped up a terrorist faction to more so justify overthrowing a legitimate governing body in the West Bank and to be able to continue controlling and dominating these people as they could play the victim more so in the international eyes.
As much as all of us hate Hamas, and we do, it has committed terrorism against Israel. Right now, the problem is the occupying power, occupying Palestinians. And I will say this, Israel should call out Hamas's bluff. Hamas said, if Israel accepts two states, we will lay down our arms. All right, call Hamas's bluff. Last month, Hamas said, we accept Qatar and Egypt's peace plan. Antony Blinken said it was very, very generous. Who torpedoed it? Netanyahu. We just saw on Friday, President Biden, who has been weakened, humiliated, and mocked and ridiculed by his greatest ally, more like an enemy, Netanyahu, the next day, Saturday, Piers, who rejected Israel's own peace plan? Netanyahu. So I'm telling you, as long as Israel occupies Palestinians and Israel chooses to occupy Palestinians, and Netanyahu and the government say no two states, there will always be resistance. That's the reality we have to deal with, unfortunately.
Israel at every turn has rejected peace, especially recently, claiming their fantasy goal of not stopping until they rid of Hamas, when the actions of watching your family, your children, your wife, your mother, your loved ones get bombed and just devastatingly murdered, genocided, is what creates the ideology of Hamas, something that will never be removed as long as you continue occupying and dominating the people within the Gaza Strip. Hamas has accepted submit multiple peace proposals, released one themselves over a month ago that is similar to the one that Biden is now proposing. And guess what? Israel rejected them both. They can continue destroying Hamas, which breaks down to 36,000 dead Palestinians, 70% of those being women and children, and the overwhelming majority of them being civilians. And it's all predicated by racism in the first place. The talking point of, oh, Israel is the only Jewish state surrounded by Arab countries, so we can't give Palestinians peace because then the savage Arabs will overtake us. It's all the same talking points that were used to defend apartheid South Africa. Oh, we're the only white state surrounded by savage black nations. We can't take our foot off of their necks. If you stopped occupying and attempting to eradicate these people, that would be the first meaningful step towards peace. And it's shown clearly on the Palestinian side through polling. Anytime there is meaningful peace talks, it is overwhelmingly supportive of ridding Hamas, stopping fighting, and having a state created in terms of peace. And it only is when that is taken from them that things like this happen.
You know exactly how many terrorists he's killed, but you have no idea how many civilians.
Absolutely. We estimate that there's about 14,000 terrorists, which we've gotten rid of. We know how many are left. There's 4 brigades, and that's why we're in Rafah.
And how many civilians have you killed?
The UN, again, Piers, in the middle of the Second World War, I don't think you could
wow,
have pushed Churchill
you're doing it as well.
Ask him,
sorry, Fleur.
What am I doing?
You're doing the same thing the government spokesman did.
Absolutely
you know
not.
exactly
It
how
is
many
a
terrorists you've killed, but you've no idea how many civilians.
We don't know exactly.
How convenient.
She represents the general psychopathy of the Israeli government, where they come on television and they think the rest of the world actually is like them, that they don't see Palestinians as humans, and they say these talking points. And Piers, sometimes when you invite me to debate, I sit here and go, I don't have to say a word, because they're undermining themselves and their own cause in front of the global stage right now.
They won't give an answer because, well, first and foremost, it would make them look like a complete military failure, even if their actions were justified. And two, as Wajahat said, they literally just do not view Palestinians as humans, and they hope that the rest of the world will agree with them. And lucky for them, America has been Islamophobic since 2001, so they have the biggest ally on their corner. The overwhelming amount of deaths have been women and children, and she's so quick to compare them to Nazis, when in reality, the reason is if she came out and said close to 30,000 civilians have died and less than 10,000 terrorists have, it would completely undermine the point she's trying to make. But luckily, any sane and rational person, any international human rights organization, the UN, any of these groups are obvious that her bloodlust, Israel's bloodlust, is already doing that. If you enjoyed these videos, we're Social Society. We're a commentary channel influenced by politics, society, and the economy. We are pretty left-leaning on this channel, but we're open to our right-wingers as well. The biggest thing here is having conversations that get everyone to the bottom of the truth. If that sounds like something that could interest you, consider smashing that subscribe button, leaving us a like, or even commenting on this video. We even have memberships available as low as $3 if you'd like to support, because the only way we become a society is together.